Hello, patrons and carnies. I am Creepy Clown Girl, the owner of this carnival of horror. Please let me direct your attention to the big dark tent at the end of the midway, where today I present to you day 2 of the Poetry Potluck. Today we are serving up something terrifying, so we hope you brought your appetites and are ready to dig into these delicious and twisted poems.
Blindfolded by Mina. Remember, permanent actions to temporary problems are never a solution. Step back and breathe. It's not as bad as it seems. You're not really alone, though bleak it seems. Pick up your phone. There's someone at home just waiting to hear your voice. For you see, there will always be someone who needs you, just like me.
"7 hours and 36 minutes, written by C.T. Mills, narrated by the Scare Lab. I look out of the window for none of it. The journey, though long, means nothing but the end. The rocking on the rails lulls me into discomfort. The seat prickles against my thighs, and you text me to tell me that you are having a bad day, because all our days are bad lately, and I have only bad news for you, and you are about to break my heart again. My 4 trains take me to the end of the line, and then not, and then the end of the line, and then not, and then the end. We'll be alright, I suppose. It's inevitable that time will have to heal us somehow. I know we've gone off the rails, but we'll order a pizza, and you'll hold my hand, and you'll give me what you call some conversation points for therapy on Monday. Don't be so selfless. At that point, you were all I could talk about. How you had me believing you were all I was worth. You made everyone break their promises. I broke mine, and then you broke me. But you love to be the centre of the gossip, don't you? It's the end of the line, isn't it? Oh, it's the end.
Hunt by Pixie, narrated by the Crowflies. The moon is dark tonight, and the veil grows thin. The air is heavy with promise and whispers of the coming winter. The hunters run tonight, hot-blooded and high-spirited. The dark is calling them, calling me. Tonight, the wild hunt holds court, and you are either one of the hunters, or you become one of the hunted.
Cage of my heart, written and narrated by TeeStache. Behind this mask I call my face. That is where I hide my tears. I've built this heart-shaped cage so I don't have to face my fears. Every day the bars rust and bend, keeping my persona I repeatedly mend. Afraid to show the pain behind my eyes, I say that I'm okay. Regret within these lies. Pride within my self-proclaimed honesty. The one who I constantly lie to is me. A desire to reach, having no laid-out plan. It seems impossible. I bury them with my own hands. Every now and then, my mask begins to crack, forced to hide within myself expressions I lack. Only I can break this prison. It's terrifying. To escape this cage, I must accept me.
Leaving Home, written by Creepy Clown Girl, narrated by Evil Outcast. I knew the day would come to say goodbye, and the hopes of seeing my family I knew would never end. As the days grew shorter and the time grew nearer, my fear grew stronger. Well, the day finally came to say goodbye, and the fear of watching my buddies die, I knew would never go away. But my mom said, "Son, if you want your freedom and your rights, you'll do what you have to do. So put your fear behind you and know that your country needs your help." As I got into the truck and started to drive away, I turned back only to see my mama standing there with tears in her eyes. I knew that times had changed, and only being 17, I knew the war was about to make a man out of me. As the day grew shorter and the camp grew nearer, my fear grew stronger than I'd ever imagined. That night, as I slept in an unfamiliar bed, I kept remembering what my mama had told me. As I wiped the tears from my eyes, I prayed that someday I would see my family again. Morning finally came, and we were up and dressed for battle. With a gun in our hands, fear in our eyes, and love in our hearts, we marched off to the line of death. As we came closer to the line of death, I couldn't help but think to myself that today was my day to die. But to turn back now would only mean that I was a coward. We finally came to the line of death and shots were fired. I looked to the left and I looked to the right. One by one, my buddies were dying while the others turned and ran. Now it was just me and a couple of my buddies left. We dropped to the ground and fired back. One by one, they fell.
Tock, written by
Peck's for the helper.
and narrated by Quipster Puck.
And Peck's for the helper.
Tick tock, time's running out. Tick tock, the monsters are coming out. Tick tock, you better lock your doors. Tick tock, pour salt along the floors. Tick tock, can you hear them outside? Tick tock, you better run and hide. Tick tock, hope they don't find you under the bed. Tick tock, if they do, you'll be dead. Tick tock, try not to close your eyes. Tick tock, pray you can see the sunrise.
The poem is titled War's Dream, narrated by Just Plain Creepy, and written by Creepy Clown Girl. Last night I had a dream that once again I was walking through an endless sea of white crosses and human remains, when to my ears I did hear once more a dying man's screams. Down on my knees I bowed my head and asked, "O Lord, why am I not amongst the dead?" To my dismay I did hear, "A time and place has not yet come." Seeing on and in silent prayer, I listened as the smell of death seemed to fill the air, when to my eyes I did see a ghostly vision of soldiers dancing to the sound of a marching band, while children play with laughter and song. Their innocence now gives life to war's land. Face to face with the devil's hand, now found to be that within the shadows of death, that a man may find peace at last within freedom's grasp. Their lives they would give unto us a price for which they were willing to pay for freedom's land, and why now our lives are forever held within their hands. Upon a table, a board of checkered design, though has been long since been deserted by the passing of time. Its red and black checkers, though faded by age, still laughing and joking with a guilty grin. Once before, many a man had played the game of checkers, and with their drunken glee and bottles of gin, they crowned kings and buried pawns and left behind forever the writing upon the wall. names of a mother's child now carved in stone. Their lives have tasted wine from an empty glass of picture frames that forever hang within the halls of yesterday's past. Prayers now only said by covered faces of churches, candles pew. Only memories, tears have touched the silence of its wooden soul. Tired and stopping to rest, and feeling as though with a drunken mind, a wooden frame now lays to rest a man of ragged breath. Now one final time, beneath the mournful cries of a funeral song, a life once lived where the time and place now belongs.
My mind. These problems are just like the snow, falling one by one, nice and slow, stacking on top of your back until you feel everything go black. The cold blanket is nice and tight, numbing the pain deep inside. He'll come for you with all his charms, and you'll greet him with open arms. Please take me away. I can live another day. I feel like I'm the only one to feel this way, battling my demons that are here to stay. I want to. I have to run and hide. But you can't. You can't run away from your mind. These emotions are just like the sea, drowning away for eternity. Every time you try to scream, more water seeps in. No matter how hard you try, in the end, you always die. He'll come to you with all his charms, and you'll greet him with open arms. Please, take me away. I can't live another day. I feel like I'm the only one to feel this way. Battling my demons. Isn't there a different way? I want to. Have to run and hide. But you can't. You can't run away from your mind. Hope is just like the stars, standing among Venus and Mars. There's always light and dark. Just follow your heart's own spark. You don't have to walk alone. Together, we can exit this zone. He'll come to you with all his charms, and you'll leave him with empty arms. Don't take me away. I want to live another day. I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. Battling my demons, doing it my way. Don't have to. Not need to run and hide, because now I've people on my side. Don't take me away. I want to see the light of day.
The Blame Lies Not With Me. Written by The Wizard of the Woods. Narrated by Disturbed K. That truly the blame lies not with me. It is not my fault your loved ones die, for everyone fears when the end is nigh. When men are shattered and their limbs fly, the blame lies not with me. Tools of death in careless hands that crush the worlds and plow the lands, and spill the souls like desert sands, the souls that I must see. I long to go where the spirits do, to be free of fate I'm shackled to give mankind a peace that's true, but I'll never be set free. The rule eternal, and so my life, to be the one who bears the strife. The wrath, the pain, gun, sword, and knife, that brings all hope to knee. The world of flame, the world of smog, your lungs shall fill, your oceans clog, to eat away like a rabid dog, the blame lies not with me. The lazy hands and greedy hearts that shred nature to bleeding parts, when all the while the rotting starts and devours all to see. My name is tied to the evil ones, forever bound to their daughters and sons, and sung in songs of swords and guns beneath the withered trees. These monsters claim that I'm to blame, a hungry beast no man can tame, an entity of death and flame, but they created me. It is not my fault that your money's gone, rendered worthless by the order of one, who could not repair the damage done. The blame lies not with me. I am fed and fueled by mounds of cash, while those around are turned to ash, and the hopes of those that live are dashed, slain by frivolity. To the streets the lost will turn, their worthless bills now tendered to burn. The depression comes for you to learn the curse of poverty. Fallen figures of good and kind strike deeper than bullet or blade, I find. Failures of the power mad remind how ruthless life can be. It is not my fault that fear has spread, that the living soon will join the dead. Not a single word I spoke to dread. The blame lies not with me. The memories that scar them still, that I bestowed, but not by will, still writhe and worm and take their fill and shape reality. The men that brave or flee from pain and return back home to love's again, still bear my mark upon the brain where no one else can see. For he is lost in a world unseen, one that lurks within his dreams, and wakes to shred him at the seams, and leaves a husk of he. This is the burden that I bear, that I am forced at once to stare into the hopeless dark despair that spreads because of me. I wanted none of this for you. I want mankind to gaze into a future bright and peaceful and new, one I can never see. I say I carry not the blame, but truth is that I wear the shame that comes from being thrust the name of war, for that is me. Forevermore I walk the path of fragile life destroyed by wrath, of broken man and psychopath, and wade through bloody sea. I want above else to be set free, and I pray my death resides with thee, and hope these words brought you to see that truly the blame lies not with me.
Know Me, written and narrated by As the Raven Dreams. You don't know me, and that's for the best. Please let me fade out and be just like the rest. Forget you know my voice, my face, my name. Whether I'm here or not, life goes on the same. You don't know me, just keep it that way. It won't really matter at the end of the day. A memory becoming nothing but a blind spot. I can find my solace inside of a burial plot. You don't know me, and neither do I. I can't find myself no matter how I try. Lost count of the days where I would sit and wait, making something of myself, but far too late. You don't know me, the world I've created. Words on tan paper that's dried and then faded. Time simply wasted on a story I can't stand, forcing a smile with life forcing my hand. You don't know me, the pain or the spite, clipping my wings so I'll never take flight. I try not to show hurt, I try not to point blame, so instead I just hide. I'm nothing but a name. You don't know me, a name on a page, an actor without purpose, no way to the stage. I'd rather live in confusion, fear, and doubt, but I'm terrified to give you a life without. One day I'll be gone, and then soon forgotten. A number, a name, really nothing uncommon. I guess until then, I'll keep marching uphill, because I don't know me, and I'm scared I never will.
An Eternity of Death, written by As the News Title, narrated by the Scare Lab.
If my heart
I have done
even
terrible
more every
things.
time I think of you,
Not to only
all the
ones
things
love,
I
but
know
also
you would
to those
have
I don't
loved.
even know.
Is the price of love?
Instead of repenting
I'll
and
pay
seeking
it.
forgiveness for my sins,
They say grief
I let
never
the guilt and
ends.
memories eat
From
away at
other
my
losses,
conscience.
I can more than agree.
human
However,
mind
I
betrays
can
the
say
heart,
it never
insisting
gets
that you do
easier
not
as
deserve
grief
forgiveness for your
compounds.
wrongdoing.
Each loss makes
I lay
grief
on my
compound.
deathbed,
The
watching
price
family and
grows.
friends come and go, trying
They
to
say
offer love
grief
and
only
comfort to the person
changes.
they love while
Of
having
this
no
too,
idea
I
what
can
evil
agree.
crimes
It
I
is
have
different
committed.
too. With each passage,
close my eyes
it
in
transforms
my
into
silence,
something
wait for the devil
different,
to take
which
me.
helps ease the
I fall into
price.
a pit of despair, longing
They
for
say
my life
grief
to
is a
finally be over,
passage,
but alas,
a way through to another point. We aren't meant to stay locked in grief's binds. How many of us let it keep us tied up, in pain and continually paying the highest price? They say grief is not a sign of weakness, though some act like it is. Of this too I agree. This is why they don't allow themselves to feel or deal with it. Those of us who make it through know the strength is the prize for this price. They say grief is not a lack of faith. Yet what of those with no faith? The strength to believe you can overcome the pain? Pain of grief can only be relieved by the strength of that faith. The price is easily paid. Grief's price changes who we are. It strengthens us. It binds up our heart. From the wounds of loss, it helps us heal. To help us move on, it helps us pay the price of love.
Nemesis by H.P. Lovecraft. Read by PapScare. Through the ghoul-guarded gateways of slumber, through the wan-mooned abysses of night, I've lived o'er my lives without number. I've sounded all things with my sight, and I struggle and shriek ere the daybreak, being driven to madness with fright. I've whirled with the earth at the dawning, when the sky was a vaporous flame. I've seen the dark universe yawning, where the black planets roll without aim, where they roll in their horror unheeded, without knowledge or luster or name. I had drifted o'er seas without ending, under sinister, grey-clouded skies, that the many-forked lightning is rending, that resound with hysterical cries, with the moans of invisible demons that out of the green waters rise. I have plunged like a deer through the arches of the hoary primordial grove, where the oaks feel the presence that marches and stalks on where no spirit dares rove. And I flee from a thing that surrounds me and leers through dead branches above. I've stumbled by cave-ridden mountains that rise barren and bleak from the plain. I have drunk of the fog-feeted fountains that ooze down to the marsh and the main. And in hot-cursed tarns I have seen things I care not to gaze on again. I have scanned the vast ivy-clad palace. I have trod its untenanted halls, where the moon rising up from the valleys shows the tapestried things on the wall, strange figures discordantly woven that I cannot endure to recall. I have peered from the casements in wonder at the mouldering meadows around, at the many-roofed village laid under the curse of a grave-girdled ground, and from rows of white urn-carven marble I listen intently for sound. I have haunted the tombs of the ages. I have flown on the pinions of fear, where the smoke belching Erebus rages, where the jockels loom snow-clad and drear, and in realms where the sun of the desert consumes what it never can cheer. I was old when the pharaohs first mounted the jewel-decked throne by the Nile. I was old in those epochs uncounted, when I and I only was vile. And man, yet untainted and happy, dwelt in bliss on the far Arctic isle. Oh, great was the sin of my spirit, and great is the reach of its doom. Not the pity of heaven can cheer it, nor can respite be found in the tomb. Down the infinite eons come beating the wings of unmerciful gloom. Through the ghoul-guarded gateways of slumber, through the wan-mooned abysses of night, I've lived o'er my lives without number. I've sounded all things with my sight, and I struggle and shriek ere the day break, being driven to madness with fright.
Hi, I'm Goodnight Goosebumps. This poem is Untitled, and I'm the author. The crimson spells and pools from beneath which where she lay. Her body still intact, in fact it seems even more today. Captured for forever, frozen. Her perfect stillness shall remain not broken. No adequate description, no comparable depiction has been written or spoken, whether fact or whether fiction. Alas, I cried out into the night. For she, my bride-to-be, someone had stolen all her light. My screams and pleas eventually brought those who would assist. But to no avail, there was no tale as pitiful as this. See, I arrived, and to my surprise, I found my love snuffed out. Not unlike the candle, flames among the mantle, the constables would later find our homie shared in shambles. They labeled it a deed by thieves, a careless life they took. A casualty they rationally disposed who saw from what they took. They offered their deep solace and consolation. They took my love and bid farewell as I stood in isolation. I stood alone patient, as I made sure that they were clear. Once their hushed tones I couldn't hear, I produced a tool that I had in haste made disappear. Seeing their sorrow, their empathy 'twas like blinders on an ass. For if they should have poked along the grass, they would have found another, cold and lifeless corpse of the man whose voice I'd heard inside from on my porch.
Yellow Roses, written and narrated by Lunar Lucy. I planted roses in a garden when I was 13. Some were blue, some were yellow, some were white. I was too scared to plant red roses. I didn't like the color red. It reminded me of danger. My mother told me it was okay, and I could plant red roses when I was older. I held a packet of red rose seeds when I was 16, but I tended to the yellow roses the most. The blue roses were healthy. The white roses were wilting. I wondered if I could bear to replace the white roses with red ones instead. I put the rose seeds away and promised to take care of the white roses. Someone planted a red rose in my garden when I was 18. It was a surprise, but it was beautiful. Its petals were so bright, and I didn't feel afraid of the color red anymore. I loved the color red. I loved the person who planted it. I don't know why I was so afraid to plant red roses. They were beautiful. I planted my own red rose with this person by my side in my garden. I watched it grow and grow and grow, and then they picked them. Both the rose they planted and the rose I planted. They gave them to someone right outside my garden. They removed the thorns on the stems for that person. They never wanted to do that for me. I cut my fingers every time I tended to the red rose they planted. For a while, all the roses wilted in my garden. Even if I watered them, it didn't matter. The soil was poor, and all I felt I could do was stare at the withering roses. I didn't feel I was good enough to take care of them all. It took a while, but one day, I decided to heal the roses one color at a time. I replaced the soil, and that took what felt like an eternity. I started with the yellow roses, and the more I tended to them, the happier I felt. Their yellow petals shined like the sun in my garden. The red rose is pretty, maybe a little dangerous. Its thorns were sharper than the other roses, but it wasn't bad. I'll be the one to plant the red rose first in my garden, and it will be for me. It'll take a little bit of time to grow. For now, the yellow roses are my favorite. Little by little, I think the other colors will be able to bloom again, with the help and the love of the bright yellow roses.
It's Watching by Mina. Watching, always watching, black eyes focused, subject unchanging regardless of the light. Day and night regardless of time, place notwithstanding, strained on the subject, focus unchanged. Sitting on statues, windowsills, rooftops, in trees, following the subject, keeping focus steady. Black eyes, behind black feathers, shape allowing, subject to remain in focus and unaware. She moves, full of grace. Shape will change as the subject is focus of the chase.
Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. Narrated by TeeStache. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child, and she was a child, in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee. With a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that, long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we, and neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea, can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea.
Hermes, written and narrated by A Clock Strikes 3. The vagabond forgave the hills today. shuffled like a broke-down car over crests. He knows he's as starkly verdant as they, but the hills have something he doesn't yet. He can't rest, must keep trekking, guiding souls as they insist on deserving the best. And won't he put in a good word? Hot coals were never what they had in mind, living life like stringless kites. Elysium goes by other names now. He keeps forgetting which to use. He's centuries too old for this gig, yet here he is, never breaking, digging out the lyre, leading the horde over hills and under dirt with each chord.
The Clawsborough Christmas Diseasy, a creepypasta story written by Mr. Black Pasta. It was Christmas month, and through the cold air, no words could be heard, not even a prayer. For God took the month off, and he couldn't be found in all of a heartless and cruel little town. Clawsborough falls silent every dreadful December as winter sweeps in a cold that no one will remember. No wood will catch light, nor coal will take heat. Kids will fight one another just for something to eat. No playing outside, no toys under trees, black rings under eyes and a poison disease. Turkeys go missing, fat wolves there are plenty. Folks disappear every year from a town where once there were many. Children be starving with little to wear, and adults never smile nor dare even to care. If the children are hungry and in need of a munch, stray cats or the rats make an excellent lunch. 11 straight months the town avoids all its fear, but the disease does as it pleases the last month of the year. Long be forgotten a time of Christmas cheer, for blood is the stain left behind by evaporated tears. Dads chain up the mommies to walls under floors and cleave fresh meat from their tummies when the hunger is sore. But also the mothers are crazed by the Christmas disease, for they torture their children whenever they please. The sons of the town are never accused, left standing for hours in snow with no shoes. The boys beg and demand with their feet turning blue, "Let us come in, we're dying." But the cold mothers refuse. Daughters are strung up to poles by dads that are rabid. They claw at their bones, throw stones, and you don't want to know what else happens. Brothers lie with their sisters and are never rejected, for by the Christmas disease they too are infected. See, the Christmas disease comes round every year with an addiction to pain and attraction to fear. Though abuse it is rampant, they shed not a tear, for the Clawsborough sin is forgotten by the first of the year. The bliss will be back, the sun shines till September. Bonfires light up the night, ever burning with ember. Parents hold hands and siblings will play, never knowing infection is headed their way. From the 1st of December, symptoms do show, increasing in intensity with the fall of the black snow. Peeling skin and rage starts slow, with a stuffy nose and bleeding from every hole. Pus seeps from the eyes of the Clawsborough people, their teeth turn yellow and sharpen with hunger and evil. Purple veins swell up and show in their skin, along with the genitalia of the adult townsmen. I bet you think the women do not get it easy, but even the men are not safe from the Christmas disease. With passion and heat and uncontrollable rage, people turn on each other and no one is safe. But true horror becomes on the day 24, for the monster sneaks into houses on the night of our Lord. He slides down the chimney ever so creeping, terrified for their lives, no one is sleeping. A white suit stained red, for it's covered in dried life. The king of infection is coming in the dead of the night. With 9 winged horned beasts he arrives by flight, and he feeds fresh human meat to the beast whose nose is alight. Presents are no more, he just takes what he wishes, innocence from children stolen with kisses. When he's hungry and searching for something to eat, he just looks to the fathers who are swollen with meat. With a swift swing of his knife, he detaches erection. He does it not just for food, but as well for affection. As dads lay bleeding, he turns his direction to moms who are sleeping with the Christmas infection. So be aware, ye young ones, who do not leave him treats, for under your bed waits the Clawsborough creep. If you think he's not real and you drift off to sleep, your parents will waken to a mess on your sheets. Because screams go unheard through the Christmas diseasey, others don't stir and good children keep sleeping. Be happy you have Santa and not a replacement. 'Cause in Clawsborough, Santa's an anagram for none other than Satan. Merry Christmas.
La Morte e Dolce. Written and narrated by A Clock Strikes 3. Evening. You come too soon for my taste. Your touch is gentle. Show me kindness before my fall. Knock need, I rest in filth. La Morte e Dolce. I have drowned myself in bitter coffee. My tongue met sweet masking sour. I am sugar white and glazed with false wisdom. I am not your prophet. Ride quick, dark savior. My eyes resent the hours. La Morte e Dolce. And I am tired.
This Soul, written and narrated by Breaker 19. He with a twisted mind can see souls, can see mine. If he can see my soul, then I pity the poor fellow. For the devil within me will say hello. The devil will then say, go down, down you foolish clown. Go down to my hounds, gagged and bound. For you will fear the soul you found.
An Eternity of Death, written by As the Noose Titles, narrated by the Scare Lab. I have done terrible things. Not to only the ones I love, but also to those I don't even know. Instead of repenting and seeking forgiveness for my sins, I let the guilt and memories eat away at my conscience. The human mind betrays the heart, insisting that you do not deserve forgiveness for your wrongdoings. I lay on my deathbed, watching family and friends come and go, trying to offer love and comfort to the person they love while having no idea what evil crimes I have committed. I close my eyes in my final minutes and wait for the devil to take me. I fall into a pit of despair, longing for my life to finally be over, but alas, it never will be. I fall to the center of the earth and watch as my skin boils. The searing heat is melting the skin from my muscle and bones, trapping my soul for all eternity in hell. I feel the flames licking at my body as they sear the mark of the damned into my flesh. I feel the burning pain of hell's fire throughout my immortal vessel. My mortal body has been put to rest in the ground, while my body in the afterlife is punished for the transgressions I have committed. I hear all of the other sinners around me, begging and pleading for their punishment to be over. The deafening volume of the people around me drowns out the screams of my own. The pleas fall upon deaf ears, as we continue to suffer our eternal torment in the underworld.
Another Angel by Creepy Clown Girl. Last night, God took another angel home, its soul now once again in heaven to roam. A girl of 15 now lays in a bed, while her mother stands near to comfort her head. Looking down into her painful eyes, I now realize, how can I help her say goodbye? This life not yet born now leaves her behind, knowing that someday when the time is right, God will be kind. Don't cry for me, Mommy, just because I'm no longer here. Always know and remember that in your heart I will be near. Thank you for what time we had shared. It shows to me that somewhere within you that you cared.
The Sleeper by Edgar Allan Poe. Read by the Gothic Librarian. At midnight in the month of June, I stand beneath the mystic moon. An opiate vapor, dewy, dim, exhales from out her golden rim, and softly dripping, drop by drop, upon the quiet mountain top, steals drowsily and musically into the universal valley. The rosemary nods upon the grave, the lily lolls upon the wave, wrapping the fog about its breast. The ruin moulders into rest. Looking like Lethe, see the lake, a conscious slumber seems to take, and would not for the world awake. All beauty sleeps, and lo, where lies Irene with her destinies. Oh, Lady Bright, can it be right, this window open to the night? The wanton airs from the treetop laughingly through the lattice drop. The bodiless airs, a wizard rout, flit through thy chamber, in and out, and wave the curtain canopy so fitfully, so fearfully, above the closed and fringed lid, 'neath which thy slumbering soul lies hid, that o'er the floor and down the wall, like ghosts, the shadows rise and fall. O Lady dear, hast thou no fear? Why and what art thou dreaming here? Sure thou art come o'er far-off seas, a wonder to these garden trees. Strange is thy pallor, strange thy dress, strange above all thy length of tress, and this all solemn silentness. The lady sleeps. Oh, may her sleep, which is enduring, so be deep. Heaven have her in its sacred keep. This chamber changed for one more holy, this bed for one more melancholy. I pray to God that she may lie forever with an opened eye, while the pale sheeted ghosts go by. My love, she sleeps. Oh, may her sleep, as it is lasting, so be deep. Soft may the worms about her creep. Far in the forest, dim and old, for her may some tall vault unfold, some vault that oft hath flung its black and winged panels fluttering back, triumphant o'er the crested palls, of her grand family funerals. Some sepulchre, remote, alone, against whose portals she hath thrown, in childhood, many an idle stone, some tomb, from out whose sounding door she ne'er shall force an echo more. Thrilling to think, poor child of sin, it was the dead who groaned within.
The Knowing Madness by Devil Jack. Entwine feelers of confusion and indulgence, euphoria in the oblivious, barter away insight to the shadowed maw of the primordial. As the drumbeat hastens the meal of the mind, one can know pleasure in the hollow, undulating amongst the voluptuous sinews, enveloped within coiled limbs, keeping, guarding, macerating. Jubilant feast, ever dwindling. Body without mind, is it kindness? To seek the spires of knowing, sharp, angry barbs, stinging, wispy lappets, the brutal convulsion of awakening, a bite into the fruit of knowledge. No, it did the biting. No, it wasn't fruit. Did the malignant globes guard knowledge or madness? Are they the same morsel? The velvety sweet dissolve of the stomach, or the sharp chomp of the mouth? The gibbering pandemonium of intellect. It chitters and drives. It itches and scorches. The tentacles soothe. They comfort with ecstasy. Why self-flagellate for the beyond one? Instead dissolve blinded for the idiot god. From its temple comes melodic exaltation. Canticles and chants erupt from pleasant pustules. What fantasy! What reverie and skylism! However, still the cathedral of comprehension, lined with tiers of tomes like broken teeth, its gates sewn shut, muted and still. No glorious gospels witnessed here, no euphoric rites, only lesions of illumination, screeching thoughts not uttered. Why hast thou educated me? Impaled on this spine, how much further till the roots, till the psyche snaps, to liquefy in orgasmic imbecility, whilst caroling diaphanous phrases of profound absurdity. The fevered cult will chant, "Look what fool was wrought."
Old Stories, written by Sadie Peck, narrated by the Scare Lab. Old books, rings of coffee stains from mugs past, cozy corners where creativity grows. No place like home for those weary souls. Worlds between two covers open to escape. Reality offers no peace to those with broken places that they can never call home. Inspiration takes place of hurt. Shadows give way to the worlds beyond what life can provide. For there is no shelter more at home than a place of books.
Insignificance by L.W. Sutton. I met a girl, inside she cries. This girl is just like me. With eyes of water, eyes of sorrow, she speaks poetically. My life, you see, means less to me than the girl who stole my heart. And now you see this girl and me, that we are torn apart. You loved me once, so love me twice. But this was just a dream. That heart you stole, you tore in two. Emotionally, I bleed. But now I see my heart's two halves you sew back into one, and even though we cannot speak, I do not feel so shunned. I truly mean it doesn't matter my heart has many scars, for our fate is not in us, it lies among the stars.
Duet of the Moon and Sun by Ghost of a Writer. They all stop and watch as the sun and moon dance around each other, a deadly game for no one but themselves, threatening to forever burn out the other, yet always wanting to touch. "Virgil?" Ray asked, squinting at the lanky boy in front of her. He has fluffy black hair and his skin is the color of porcelain. "Yes," the boy answers calmly, almost bored-like, looking towards the short, golden blonde girl. Her hair falls over her tan shoulders, swaying with her movements. The figures slowly circle each other, the petite girl twirling as the boy bows. "Don't you think it's time to end this duet? To draw it to a close?" The boy slows for a moment, his pale skin starting to badly blister as Ray comes closer. "I don't know," he whispers, looking at the cracked ground. His voice shakes, his hand in tight fists. He's infuriated at the gods, at the people that once worshipped them, all gone, all deserting them, leaving them to their tragic fate, alone, except for each other. "I mean, how long have we danced for? Never able to touch, to hold one another?" Ray thoughtfully mentions, slowing her dance as not to harm Virgil further. "True, but I'm scared," Virgil whispers. "So many people rely on us, on our dance." He almost wants to spit on them, but he knows how important they are to mankind's continued survival. "We have danced for billions of years. No one has noticed us in forever," Ray yells. Her eyes shine as tears start to form. Her face scrunches up for a moment. "They don't matter. We matter," she sobs, tears showing on her face, starting to drain the color from her tan skin. "Don't you think I know that?" Virgil spits out, fury shaking in his voice. "But what about them? About their families and lives? How about the gods above?" He stops suddenly, watching Ray as she tries quickly to stop her tears. She knows if she doesn't, she'll go out. Virgil watches closely as her skin pales a bit more. He bites his lip, worried. "I miss you, though," she starts again in her dance. "Me too," Virgil sighs, his voice loud in the deafening silence. "Then shall we end it?" Ray questions, suddenly scared, clutching her hands together, twisting them around themselves. "I guess so," Virgil answers, his voice hitching. He can't believe that this is finally the moment. And so they run towards each other, clashing together. Virgil burns like that of the sun as he embraces his son. And yet, Ray turns as cold as the dark side of the moon, her brilliant golden hair going dull and gray as Virgil's black hair turns white as ash, his blistering, their faces closed and scarred as they hold onto each other as if breaking apart would mean breaking the world apart. And yet they explode into a billion stars, each part of themselves, slowly burning out and landing on the cold ground, where two forms grows, the sun and moon reborn, cursed to do their dance over again. The gods laugh upon seeing this, knowing their ignorance will never be realized, as the cycle continues for the 5th time, and they lie there in each other's embrace for a short moment, finally achieving what they wanted. Fin.
Sadako, written and narrated by the Scare Lab. Fraud, freak, murderer, monster. Their words surround me as I fall, pushed into oblivion by my differences, rejected for my spare parts. You did this. You made me this way. They fear what they don't understand, and they never tried to understand me. I'm alone down here. I have always been alone, covered up, built over, as if I was never there. But I am still here. waiting. My dying thoughts, my final rage, projected to the world above. They will feel what I felt. They will die alone, as I did. My anger will take hold and destroy them in 7 days.
Dear Children, written by Creepy Clown Girl, narrated by Disturbed K. Dear children, today you were born, and unto you I will say, with my life, in sickness and in health, for better or for worse, for rich or for poor, and till death do us part. I do now hereby sign my soul to another man's crime. I will pay. Your lives God has given to me, a lesson for which he felt I'd be given so that my eyes will always see, and unto my ears, so that I might always hear the song that you will sing. He will give from heaven to me a pair of wings, and from his eyes, my children, will he cry many a tear so that you might live in life without fear. Today, here you are. Your lives now belong, each one of you still standing strong. Today, here you are. Your lives now belong, each one of you still standing strong. To my daughters, on this day, this poem I now write and dedicate. No other love than that of yours can ever be replaced. Our lives together, no matter the storm, unless by God's hand can no one take. No other love than that of yours can ever be replaced. Our lives together, no matter the storm, unless by God's hand can no one take.
Memento Mori, written by Sadie Peck, narrated by the Scare Lab. They say nothing lasts forever, and they will be right, but when it comes to trauma, it feels as though you've been damned to claw so desperately at walls dressed in glass and mangled stone, so close yet so far from salvation. I, however, choose my fate, and the death shall only engulf the demons that lurk the souls who wish to see me suffer. For it is my time to heal, to flourish, and I, for one, can't wait to see my light crumble the vampires to dust.
Seasons Change by Mina. Childhood hopes and dreams, as numerous as the stars, give way to more solid ones as knowledge and interest grow with time. Where once the vastness of time and space was open to my mind, time has narrowed my view to things I've grown to love. The windows narrow as age increases, desires sharpen as seasons change. Time stops for none. Some achieved, some still remain. Dreams and hopes are stars, as stars once so numerous fall to the wayside.
Remember Us and 9/11, written and narrated by me, Creepy Clown Girl. Remember us and all the little things a child does, and how we never leave behind the memories now framed within our lives. Remember us as we laugh and play a child's game, and how with our cries of pain we always called your name. Remember us each and every day when you see us go to school, and always remember our words of love to you. Remember us and how from a nightmare and a song we lay there sleeping within your arms. Remember us and the body we shared and how you showed us that you cared. Remember us and all the little things a parent does and how you never leave behind the memories now framed within our lives. Remember us as you laugh and play a parent's game, and how with your cries of pain you never called our name. Remember us and all you swear and how we found a child's prayer, or how from a dirty look we always read a child's book, or how from fear we found comfort in a teddy bear. Remember us and how before a mirror there you stand, reflecting back to who I am. 9/11. As tomorrow comes, our lives will never be the same, forever changed by visions of America's pain. Scarred once more by tragedy's name, are we left to feel others' hatred and shame? United as one do we stand, a nation built by freedom's hand. Let all those who have died continue on in America's pride, never letting their deaths be a place where cowards can run and hide. If within ourselves we believe this to be true, then who they are and all will be their final due. Dedicated to the memory of 9/11.
The World Burns by Vitis 22. Narrated by myself. This is where we live, where souls come to claw at the idea of non-existent tranquility, driving us one and all to the darkness we have all faced before. The place where dreams meet reality, hearts are broken, worth is reevaluated, existence is questioned, pleasant times come to die. Back away and lose yourself, better than finding who you are. And the truth revealed in the dark, lying is so much easier, so much more entertaining. Self-gratification trumps morals and burns its remains. Pure souls are a rarity, love forgotten. How sickening. To be so unattached to a compliment, to overanalyze the meaning of kindness, to conclude it as yet another dagger in your heart. Why would the norm transform the revolting personalities so drastically? To make you feel you have worth. Just another met reality in this world of darkness, of narcissism and cynicism. What a time. It requires unheard of efforts to be sincere. Lying is easier, safer. This is where we live. It will burn before our unintentionally despicable fruition, but not soon enough. Never soon enough.
Dames Point is a little town on the East Coast that at one time was considered picturesque. Despite this, not many people make it a habit to visit due to the unwelcoming nature of the few that reside there. Maybe it's the salty air, the golden beaches, or the wooded hills that roll on forever that keep the townies around. Or maybe it's a darker secret not spoken of in public that haunts this town's past and keeps the residents as prisoners. It has been whispered in some circles that Dames Point, once a thriving fishing and port town, fell on hard times around the turn of last century. Whatever caused this is unknown and only speculated. Some talk about a pirate's curse. Others mention voodoo spells and witchcraft. Some even go as far as to say it was an ancient race of dark mermaids, that the mayor's son had once been lured in by one of these creatures and made a vow he never kept. Since then, the town has known nothing but despair. Most sensible people overlook these tales and assume it's a town that had run its course with bigger cities such as Charleston, Baltimore, and Boston taking over its business. Whatever the case, it didn't matter much to me. I had been assigned by the state auditor to go there and assess the decline of the town. It had been over 100 years since anyone had taken an interest in this place. But due to new revitalization programs enacted by the governor, someone had to do it. Upon entering the town, the first thing that caught my attention was the rundown appearance of the place. There were holes in the steep pitched colonial roofs of the house, an old industrial complex from which steam poured out of greasy canneries, leaving a foul smell in the air. To be fair, everything outside the town was postcard perfect, but once inside, it was like a trip to another dimension. where building design froze in the early 1900s, but entropy continued to march on. There was a road going north to south that ran straight through the sleepy village, most likely once part of the old highway system that fell out of use once interstates were built. Yet one more reason why this place was probably in a severe state of decline. From this old highway, other roads spiderwebbed off and through the city. At one point, this place had about 50,000 people living in her. Now it was down to 3,000 at most. My first stop was at the local hotel, where I was going to drop my bags before making my way to the one corporation still in business there. J.K. & Sons Fish Cannery had been operating since the late 1800s. But while still active, they didn't do much business and packaged food under other corporations' names. The hotel was dilapidated like the rest of the town. The clerk's mahogany desk was as greasy as the air. A thin film of filth coated the reddish-brown wood, making it sticky and almost black. Behind the desk sat a man with thinning hair and a pale complexion. His eyes were slightly bulging and his lips so swollen they appeared that they could burst at any moment. He wore a tank top that had been stained brown by sweat and barely covered his portly body. Without making any small talk, I introduced myself and asked for my room key. Despite his ghastly appearance, he was soft-spoken, if not somewhat feeble-minded. His speech slurred a bit, not from intoxication, but from being slow of thought. Eventually, I got to my room and settled in. The bed was clean and the accommodations adequate. Whatever care was put into the rooms was not put into the rest of the hotel. After lunch, which fortunately I'd brought with me, I walked the short way to the office building. Some of the houses lacked doors, which at first I thought meant that they were abandoned, until I saw a family in one eating a meager meal. There was a gas station and a small convenience store that seemed to be the only shopping place in town. I assumed most people drove the 30 minutes to the next town over for any major purchases. Most of the buildings were vacant and at one time probably fine stores with quality merchandise. On one window I could still see the old stenciling for a toy store. Another had a marquee for a clothing shop. The insides were now dusty and had cobwebs hanging from the ceiling. At the wharf, the smell of dead fish was overpowering. Flies buzzed all around and rats scurried away from my approach. The office of the owner, who was J.K.'s son, his name was Artemis, was in the back of the building. There were maybe 100 employees on shift at the time, which made me wonder what the other ones who lived in town did. I won't bore you with the business talk we had about the proposed plans and loans from the governor to update antiquated equipment in the cannery. How the governor wanted to make her state competitive across all fronts and ensure small businesses had a chance to compete with larger corporations with small business subsidies and lower interest loans. I will tell you that Art only met my speech with contempt and a look of loathing in his eyes. He made clear in no small terms that me and my help, nor the government, was wanted in his town, as he called it. Based on the outside appearance of the building, I would have assumed he was going to welcome me with open arms. The inside of his office was another story, however. It was immaculate in its appearance. The floors spotless. His desk sparkled the reflection of the sun outside his window. There was even ivory trim inlaid into the teak wood desk. Not to mention the stench from outside somehow didn't make it into the room. I was scheduled to meet with him for 2 days, but the conversation was over in a matter of hours. By the time I left, it was only a little after 3. There was plenty of time for me to drive back that day, and not have to spend a night in the tiny rundown town whose stench was sticking to my skin by this point. Got back to the hotel and checked out. Went to my car to find out that it wouldn't start. Come to find out that the battery was gone. Not dead or unserviceable, but completely vanished. Tried to use my cell phone, but had no coverage, so I went in to use the phone at the desk. The man at the desk told me the phone was dead and had been for some time, but he did offer to go get a mechanic to look at the car. It took over an hour for them to get back, and the mechanic told me that he had a shipment of batteries coming in the next day. that if I wanted to wait at the hotel that night, he would get me going first thing in the morning. That didn't sit well with me, but I left my bags in the lobby and told the clerk that I would be back for them in a bit. During that time, I went for a walk around town, desperately trying to get some kind of cell service. Up and down the main road I walked. Then when that failed, I went throughout the small town, hoping beyond hope that I would get a signal so that I could get out of there as soon as possible. The whole time I was walking, I could feel eyes staring at me from inside each abandoned building. It was as if the whole town was watching me. On top of one of the many hills, I found a house unlike all the rest. It was well kept with an iron fence around the lot. The yard was green, and on the front porch there were large wooden pillars supporting a balcony. It almost reminded me of an old plantation home from further down south. It gave me chills to see such luxury in the otherwise squalor of the town. I could almost hear the faint echoes of screams and whips around me. Something wasn't adding up about this town, or Artemis, who I supposed this house belonged to. It was like there was some kind of spell on the people below, but up on this hill one could rise above it. Halfway down the hill, and a quiet whistle caught my attention. A hand waved to me from the woods, calling me to someone behind a tree. Suspicious and hesitant, I carefully made my way towards the tree, my hands half raised and ready in case I was attacked. Mister, you gotta get out of here," a man's voice said to me from behind the tree. "They don't like outsiders here in town. Get out before it gets dark." "What do you mean, they?" I asked. "The bosses. If you don't leave before dark, they'll trap you here like everyone else," the voice said. "Who are these bosses? I work for the governor. If you tell me what's going on, I can get help." "There's no help here any man can give. It's best you go." "My car's dead and there's no phone service. How am I supposed to get out?" I responded. "Walk if you have to, but not out the main road. They watch that at night. Go through the path behind the big house. If you see the torches, it's too late. Go, fast." I can't turn a blind eye to this. If people are being held here against their will, I have to do something about it. There's nothing on this earth that can change what has happened here, and to tell you the truth, all of them deserve it. But if you're here after dark, the bosses will think you're one of them," the man continued. "If this is some sort of punishment, then the government is the only one who can judge people. I'm afraid these people were judged and convicted a long time ago and will pay for their sins for eternity," the voice told me. Whoever it was made sure to stay on the far side of the tree so as not to be seen. "You're gonna have to tell me or I won't go, and take my chances here to see firsthand what's going on," I said. "All right, but you might not like or believe what I tell you," the voice then said. It went on to explain how Dames Point had once been a hub for the Atlantic slave trade, how they had even continued after it had been outlawed. That was until one day they smuggled in a voodoo priestess from Jamaica. She laid a curse on the whole town that everyone who participated in the act would then be a slave themselves. That very night, the bosses came out of the ocean with torches in their hands and laid the whip to everyone in the town. From then on, no one in the town has died, but was beaten nightly, and the town works for the bosses, giving them all they have so they can live in the house on the hill. I could barely believe my ears until the man came from behind the tree. He showed me his wounds in his back that had been scourged open from the whippings, always festering and never healing. The sun was starting to get low in the sky, so I left my bag at the hotel, abandoned my car, and made my way up the trail behind the house on the hill. It wasn't soon after I hit the peak on the hill that the sun went down. I stopped for a moment to see if what the man had told me was true. Sure enough, as soon as the light left the sky, a parade of torches, one at first and then many, came marching out of the sea. As I turned to leave so as to not be caught up in what would happen next, I could hear the whips and screams coming from below. I knew then that there really was a hell on earth, and if you're not careful, you could end up there.
Sadie. You finally snapped at me, telling me to leave. Then you ran, leaving me be, leaving me alone to grieve. Though you were away, my mind couldn't bear. I thought about you all day. You don't know how much I care. I started thinking of ways of keeping you down here alone with me, my dear. I started to follow you, even studied your diet. I think for a while you knew, now, about keeping you quiet. You approached me one afternoon, threatening to call the cops. I told you to look at the moon. You turned, asked what? Your neck and knot. I admit, I hit you harder than I originally thought. Now to my basement, you must charter. Look at this nice rope I bought. You're finally awake. Upside down you hang. In a dark basement you bake. You hear an accidental clang. Oops, I said. I dropped my knife. I almost cut off my foot. That would have ruined my life. I only want to be your friend. You say you don't roll that way. Friends to the end. I'm going to make you stay. You look scared. Said you were sorry. We'll start over, our friendship to mend. I whispered, don't be scared, Molly. I grabbed your throat, friends till the end. Well, that was a year ago. Looking back on it, I do regret so fast your life did go. We could have married, I bet. However, you're still here, sitting here next to me, just as beautiful, my dear, a happy couple will be. Though the stitches are deterring, sleeping with you isn't bad. I find playing with them alluring. I hope at me you're not mad. More than friends we became at the moment I heard your name. Regardless, don't worry. I'm your friend, and we'll be together to the very end.
My horror by Melody Fowles. Lost case. Drag me under and hold me down. The more I choke, the faster I drown. Take my horror and wield the knife. You pierce my skin, will you take my life? I grit my teeth when the blade sinks in, moaning in pleasure with this painful sin. I crave my torture to keep me sane, begging you to do it over and over again. The cutting, the pain, I feel so alive. In this nightmare is where my senses thrive. My nerves are on fire as blood fills my mouth. I laugh in glee as you slide the blade out. Now you know my secret, what I dream about.
Thank you, patrons and carnies, for coming to the carnival today. We really hope you enjoyed these delicious and twisted poems. So until next time, remember, stay frightened.